Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today F1 2022, or shall I say F1 22, has been announced. It has been slightly rebranded with just the 2-digit number for the date. There is a trailer as well as a short write-up about the new features and what we can expect in the new game, which will be released on the 1st of July or the 28th of June if you get the early access version. But let's just get into it and see what we have in store. I have not read through this yet, so this will be a live reaction, so let's get into it. Enter the new era of Formula 1 in EA Sports F1 2022, the official video game of the 2022 FIA Formula 1 World Championship. Take your seat for a new season as redesigned cars and overhauled rules redefine race day. Test your skills around the new Miami International Autodrome and get a taste of the glitz and glamour of Formula 1 in F1 life. Here's all the info you need to know about F1 22 ahead of the lights going out for worldwide release on July 1st, 2022, including how to get early access and special pre-order content. F1 22 will release July 1st, 2022 on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One and PC via the EA app, Origin, Steam and Epic Store. But you can start racing 3 days earlier from June 28th, 2022 if you pre-order the F1 22 Champions Edition. So I suppose Champions Edition is going to be the more expensive version where they tend to add a little bit more content early on. Not sure if we'll be getting that. We'll see what it includes. But what's new in this year's game? New season, new rules. Take your seat for the new era of Formula 1 with the sport's stunning new cars and a new handling model that recreates the intense wheel-to-wheel racing that has had us on the edge of our seats so far in the 2022 Formula 1 season. Plus, test your talent amongst the iconic Florida palm trees around the 19 challenging corners of the vibrant new Miami International Autodrome, and go flat out as F1 Sprint comes to the game for the first time in F1 22. That is actually awesome that the sprint races are coming to the Formula 1 game. I wasn't sure if that was something they would add or not. I don't know what format that will be in, if it will be something automated. As in just certain tracks will have sprint races sort of locked into their weekend format, or whether it's an option you can toggle on and off. Maybe you can even choose the rounds that the sprint race applies to. That would of course be the most ideal situation. But yeah, I'll be very curious to see how that is implemented. But very cool nonetheless to have sprint races in the game in whatever format they are. Also, I just noticed something about Miami International Autodrome. The initials are MIA, which are the first 3 letters of Miami. Not sure if that's intentional or not, but that's pretty cool. But back to the important stuff. Race day redefined. New race options in F1 22 will give you more control over your virtual F1 race day, with the opportunity to choose between immersive and broadcast style formation laps, safety car periods and pit stops. So that's very interesting, switching between immersive and broadcast mode. I imagine immersive is something similar to what we have now, where you drive formation laps and safety cars and all of that stuff yourself. Maybe in terms of immersive pit stops, potentially they could be adding the ability to actually drive into pit lane and stop on the marks yourself. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but I suppose we'll find out in due course. But that would be pretty cool either way. And broadcast mode, I imagine, will be something a bit more cinematic, where you'll be able to, or the game will switch to replay cameras while you're making pit stops. And potentially, maybe when a safety car comes out, it would be quite cool to see the game switch to a replay camera and actually show you the cause of the safety car, whether there was a crash or whatever it might have been. Maybe that's something they're going to implement here. I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work, but that's pretty cool. That's for formation laps. I don't know, maybe they could even add commentary from Crofty as the cars are lining up on the formation lap. That could be quite cool, but obviously we'll have to see exactly what that means, but either way, I think that's a very cool option to have that, especially as a content creator. There's definitely potential for that to be a very, very cool feature, that broadcast mode. Anyway, continuing on, F1 22 also includes VR compatibility on PC via Oculus Rift and HTC Vive to give you the ultimate immersive F1 experience. For me, VR, not really a big deal, but I know for some people, there's been a lot of people requesting VR in the Formula 1 games, so for some people that will be a game changer, I'm sure, but for me personally, not too fussed about it. F1 Life. Get a taste of the glitz and glamour of Formula 1 in F1 Life, a new space for you to unlock and show off supercars, clothing, accessories and more for the world to see. So that's not particularly descriptive what that actually means. I'm very intrigued by them saying supercars. That obviously means there's going to be some form of supercars in the game, presumably licensed supercars, not sort of generic ones. I should hope so anyway. Like they've already got the likes of Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin in the game, in terms of their F1 cars. So I can't imagine it'd be too difficult to add in, and Mercedes as well, to add in their road cars. Whether they're drivable or not, I don't know. I really hope they are. That would be awesome. Maybe even in Grand Prix mode you'd be able to actually race them. That would be quite cool. But yeah, we'll have to see exactly what that is. But the fact there are supercars in the game is quite interesting. But yeah, clothing as well. It says clothing, not racing gear as such. So and accessories. So potentially there'll be more of a sort of personal character as such, rather than just a racing driver. If that makes sense. So maybe there'll be more, some form of outside of F1 kind of content in the game. You might have a, kind of garage where, all of these things are. I'm not sure what exact format that will be in, but it seems interesting nonetheless. Returning features. My Team and Career Mode return in F1 22 with fresh new features, along with 2-player split screen, F2, online multiplayer, and all the features you know and love. So, no F3, slightly disappointing, but to be honest I wasn't expecting F3 to be there, but that would have been nice to have. But still very cool that they're still working on My Team, and they'll be improving that experience in one way or another, along with Career Mode as well by the sounds of it. So there'll be more work going on in that area. There's also no mention of classic cars either as of yet, so a bit of a shame that we'd be missing out on those for another year. But with the F2 and potentially even supercars to drive, it seems there will still be a little bit of variety in terms of cars to drive in the game. Pre-order. F1 22 is available to pre-order now with a special Miami themed content pack featuring livery, suit, helmet, gloves, a cap, t-shirt and wall art designed by a local artist when you pre-order the game before May 16th. But now that's interesting, because that gives us a bit of an insight in what some of these accessories and clothing could be, because of course we already had obviously car liveries, suits and helmets, gloves, but we've never had caps and t-shirts in the game. Or I suppose we did, but they would just go hand in hand with the suit, the race suit that you had. So yeah, it's quite interesting that there's now a difference there in terms of having those as separate customizable options, potentially for separate situations. So that's pretty cool to have those there as separate customizable items, and potentially there'll be more as well. And wall art design, I wonder what that is. I mean, it could be any wall. Is it the wall of your My Team facilities, or is it the wall of your garage? Who knows? But there will be some form of customization there as well. By the sounds of it, if this is in reference to the F1 Life section, where you have your collection of supercars and clothing and etc. Potentially that will be some form of garage, or even like trophy room kind of place. I don't know, but nonetheless, more customization in that kind of field seems pretty cool anyway. Continuing on then, F1 22 Champions Edition also gets you on the track early with 3 days early access. We've already covered that, of course, earlier on. But anyway, meaning you can play starting June 28th, plus get F1 22 New Era content, an F1 Life starter pack, new My Team icons, and 18,000 Bitcoin. So new My Team icons if you pre-order the game, the Champions Edition. So there's 2 or 3 ways that could work, in my opinion. Potentially they will keep the old icons for the people who don't pre-order the game, and of course they'll probably still be available to everyone, and then they'll bring in a handful of new icons, because with the old ones we basically had almost all the world champions, I think, back to the 90s, I think, with Schumacher in the game. I think that covered most of the world champions. I think back to Mika Hakkinen was the first one that was missing, and of course we had a few non-champions as well with Coulthard and Massa. So there's a few ways they could go. They could go to even older world champions like Mika Hakkinen, or they could go back even further and have Niki Lauda and James Hunt or Fangio if you wanted to go to the extremes. But we'll see, I suppose. They could also go with newer drivers that aren't world champions, but were very, very good drivers, the likes of Mark Webber or Nico Hulkenberg, or who else has retired recently, semi-recently, I don't know. But yeah, there's also that route as well. But yeah, there's a few options there. So that's basically the end of that page I was reading from. That was from the EA website, but there's also a story on the F1 website that has a little bit of different information. So there's a quote from Lee Mather, F1 Senior Creative Director at Codemasters, and it has some very interesting things to say, so let's get into that. So Lee Mather says, alongside the real world changes, we have updated the physics to accommodate the new aero rules and rework the tyre model, making the handling more true to life. That's always a good thing, making the game more realistic. They've been sort of chipping away at that over the years, so they've taken another step in that direction. With new and updated circuits, adaptive AI, F1 Life, and expanded gameplay options, there has never been a better time for players to take their seats and live the life of an F1 driver. That is interesting. So picking out a few keywords from that: new and updated circuits, of course Miami new circuit, and of course updated circuits like Melbourne. That's completely changed, as we've just seen in the recent Australian Grand Prix. Cool changes there. I'm looking forward to driving that, as well as of course Spain. The last sector was changed a little bit there, and of course Abu Dhabi as well. Huge changes to Abu Dhabi and Melbourne in particular. But anyway, we've also got adaptive AI. That is also another interesting one. Presumably the adaptive AI means they will dynamically change during the race depending on how fast you're going. So if you get into the race and you find out you've set the AI 5 clicks too high or too low, it may accommodate for that, and the AI will speed up. Hopefully it changes that for you know, hopefully that's a blanket adaptation across the field and not just rubber banding, because there is a difference between adaptive AI and rubber banding AI. Because yeah, rubber banding probably not something we need in the Formula One game. So I'm hoping that they've done that properly, based on car performance, not just how far in front or behind the other cars are. But either way, it has potential to be something cool. But just being the skeptic there, I suppose. But yeah, that assuming that is proper adaptive AI, that is very cool. F1 Life, we've already talked about a bit. Expanded gameplay options, that could literally mean anything. There's a bit more information on the immersive and broadcast options here as well. It says Immersive Mode allows players to take on risk versus reward challenges, while Broadcast Mode includes controlled and authentic cinematics to enhance the action. So we'll start with Immersive Mode, risk versus reward challenges. So imagining that would be, say, for a pit stop, you can, say if you can, drive your car into the box, you can obviously go full, blazing into the box and, sliding your car onto the marks, and that might be the fastest way to do it. But of course, you have a very high chance of messing it up, or you can just sort of, putt along and, slowly just pull your car up, and you might lose a second, but you're not going to mess it up. Or, you can potentially, for the formation laps, you can, I don't know what the risk versus reward there is. Potentially, if you heat up your tires too quickly, that can, increase tire wear later on. That is a very real thing that happens. Whereas if you bring up your tires to temperature more slowly and more skillfully, that your tires will be in a better window later on in the race, and the same can go for safety cars. And there's certainly some tactics you could do on safety car restarts that could be risk versus reward as well. As for the cinematics, in the broadcast mode, to enhance the action, I imagine that will just be like sort of replay camera style things for the pit stops, which would also be quite cool. They could do some very cool stuff with that. But it says controlled and authentic cinematics, so I suppose they mean they're sort of set in stone what they look like. What a formation lap looks like will be the same, every time, of course. But I suppose we'll see exactly what that will be. But it sounds pretty cool in any case. It also says adaptive AI lets less experienced players take on the challenge with AI races tailored to match their skill level, while accessible menus and handling also return for players who want to get into the action quickly. So there we go, that clarifies it a bit, I suppose, that the adaptive AI will, by the sounds of it, will sort of dynamically adjust to what the player is doing, which it depends how well it works, I suppose. If that is a well implemented feature that works, it just works, that could be awesome. Even for me, that could be, if it works, because many times I've gone into a race and found out, I've set the difficulty 5 clicks too high or low, and it just becomes too easy or just frustrating if it's too far one way or the other. So that could potentially be a very good feature, but we'll have to see how exactly it works, and if it is something that is going to be useful. But hopefully that is something we can make use of. But anyway, continuing, we will also have refreshed practice programs, thank goodness, that offer more variety this time around, because ever since I started playing the F1 games in F1 2018, I think we've had 6 practice programs, and they haven't really changed much. The best change they made is in F1 2021, when you only have to do 3 to get maximum resource points. That was a great change, but yeah, to have them refreshed and just have something new to do, hopefully in practice, will be quite cool. And it will be actually very interesting for the sprint rounds if the practice sessions are different, because you don't really have the time to do the same sort of programs. So it'll be very interesting to see how if your practice programs actually adapt to that in the sprint rounds, if you have to do less programs or different programs in the sprint rounds. But yeah, that we'll have to see, of course. But yeah, that is something to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, as for the rest of the write-up here, it says, my team also returns, of course. Players are now given a choice of starting budget and 3 entry scenarios. Doesn't say what they are, but I presume they would be, starting at the front, in the midfield, or at the back, as we typically have. So I assume that's what the 3 scenarios are. And of course, the usual 10-year driver career mode also returns, so you can, of course, drive for whoever your favorite team is. If you want to drive for Ferrari or whatever, you can also do that as a career mode. Of course, 2-player career mode also returns, along with epic online multiplayer mode, specifically, it says. So yeah, that is it for what it says on the Formula 1 website. That's all the sort of new details there that weren't on the EA one. So yeah, that is going to be just about it for this one. Overall, I'm going to sort of say it's a little bit underwhelming. It depends. It depends on how big this F1 Live thing is. That seems to be the sort of big new feature they're advertising this time. But yeah, if that's going to be the selling point, I think it needs to be good. And the supercars, hopefully, will be drivable and raceable. If they are, I'd say that's a good sort of improvement and a really great feature in the game. If not, that would be quite disappointing. But at the end of the day, it is a Formula 1 game, not a supercars driving game. So whether that's going to be a possibility, I don't know, but it will be very cool if they are drivable and raceable in the game. So yeah, I can't wait to see that happen, if indeed it does, because I'd love to see that. But anyway, that is going to do it for this video, so I think I'll just say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.